What is going on, investors? Hopefully you guys had a great week. Happy Friday. It is that day when we cover all the FANG stocks plus a Microsoft and Tesla. Buckle up your seatbelt, guys. It was a busy week in terms of news for all these stocks. Starting off with the Facebook, started the week about 274, end of the week at 275. Tell you what, you got to buckle your seatbelt with Facebook and Google because the antitrust lawsuits are coming in fast and they're hard to keep track of because there's so many. 10 states are suing Google over creating a digital ad monopoly and that they colluded with Facebook to rig ad auctions. So we'll see what happens. As somebody that spends tens of thousands of dollars on ads on these websites, boy, I hope this is not necessarily the case, and maybe I'll get a little settlement money in the end. But we've got lots of suits. I think 3 came in this week alone for Google, and Facebook is tagged along in some of those as well. Again, if you've been following the series of videos, expect this just to continue on just for the next few years at the very least. Facebook is assisting Epic Games, which is the maker of a popular Fortnite game that has been kicked off the Apple Store. So Facebook is pitching in with Epic Games in discovery. They're not going to be added to the lawsuit, but they are going to add some documents and support to Epic Games in their battle with Apple because Facebook probably has a little bit of a battle in that fight as well. So we'll see what happens there. What was interesting is Angie's List, which is ticker symbol Angie, and Fiverr, which is a pretty popular website if you're into the kind of the gig economy, making logos, things like that. Well, it looks like Facebook is building a team to have services on their sites where you can buy and sell services. Right now, you can buy and sell goods, and you probably some of it is probably service related as well. But it looks like maybe a dedicated thing could potentially come to Facebook. You see all these kind of rumors. Facebook's getting into this or that. Doesn't necessarily always impact these kind of standalone websites. So we'll see what happens there. Facebook's testing a tool to allow users to pay celebrities for interaction. So it's a tool called Super. So if you're on a live event or kind of a live chat or something, it's almost how YouTube works, where you can kind of tip people when they're doing a live stream here on YouTube. Looks like a similar feature. So that'll be interesting. If your favorite celebrities on Facebook, you might be able to tip them and have them pay attention to you, give you a shout out. Apple had a big week. Started the week at 123, broke up to 126. When we get over the stock chart, that $3 move was actually pretty big for the stock. So we'll talk about that here in a moment. Big week for Apple iPhone estimates. So a lot of people are doing surveys. These analyst groups are going out there surveying the room, kind of, so to speak, on how well the iPhone 12 is doing, and they see it doing well, particularly in China. So a couple groups came out this week and reporting 30% of iPhone production boost, which means if Apple is producing more, it means they're probably anticipating selling quite a bit. It looks like they're going to produce between 95 and 96 million iPhones in the first half of 2021, which is a 30% rise over the previous year, primarily led because you've got these 5G devices, and probably there was a lot of users out there that were well overdue for an upgrade. Amazon came in starting the week at 31.59, just up slightly to about, we'll call that 3,200. Not a ton of news out of Amazon, but a federal regulator says Amazon warehouse workers in Alabama can proceed with a union vote, and if that passes, I don't exactly know if it will or not, but I assume it probably has a good shot. It will become the first U.S.-based Amazon facility with a union. So we'll see how that impacts Amazon, which is one of the largest employers. It might be the largest employer maybe in the United States. But if you follow this channel, Amazon's plan this whole time, you're not going to read about this a lot in newspapers and things like that. Amazon is going to automate the vast majority of their warehouses. Okay, they have a lot of automated systems already, but they have a lot of workers. Those workers are going to be pushed to the side at some point. And so the Amazon's goal is to just kind of drive up minimum wages, drive up wages on workers, and then what that does is it hurts Target and Walmart and especially small businesses that have to pay more for that labor that Amazon is driving the price up. And guess what Amazon's going to do? they're going to automate all that after the competition gets absolutely decimated. Moving on to Amazon still. Amazon Web Services claims they made a superior $10 billion JEDI contract. We're still talking about this JEDI contract with the Pentagon that Microsoft got awarded. So Amazon says we bid even higher. So we'll see what happens there. Maybe a change of the administration might change the view on Amazon, since the CEO of Amazon, if you don't know, owns the Washington Post. And let's just say the Washington Post wasn't at all friendly to the previous administration. Underlying retail sales look strong in November, so it looks good from a retail basis. They were actually down about 1% month over month, but the key thing related to Amazon here is sales of online category was up 29% year over year. 29% year over year growth in non-store retail. Holy cow. Guess what? Amazon, Etsy, Wayfair, eBay, all those online stores are absolutely going to explode. Netflix coming in, started the week at 505, broke out. If you've been following the channel for a while and then watch the stock chart segment that we do at the end, Amazon broke up into the upper level, so we'll talk about that in a minute. So the new season of The Crown pushes The Queen's Gambit, which we talked about on the last show. It was the first show to hit Nielsen's online streaming ratings. I think it was top of the ratings for 3 weeks in a row. The Crown kind of pushed Queen's Gambit off to the side, but guess what? The Crown's a Netflix show, at least in the UK drama. You probably could watch it here in the United States. So just tons of viewership there. Netflix just has a really I don't watch any of these shows, so I guess I don't have an appreciation for them. But when I see stuff like this, it makes me want to jump in on Netflix because, again, I don't watch these shows. I don't really watch Netflix. But, boy, there's some strong stuff happening there with their shows. Google. Now, interesting stuff happened on the stock chart with Google. It kind of is doing what we think it's going to do. It started the week at 1785, finished down to 1735. Rough week for Google. Again, I think they had their third. They had 3 antitrust suits come in during the week. And guess what? Earlier in the week, you might have noticed if you tried to jump on YouTube or check your Gmail, well, it was down, and it was down for quite a bit. And there was some intermediate things happened in the meantime, too. So new group of 38 states sue Google. So this is the third antitrust lawsuit since October has arrived against Google. Boy, they better be setting aside lots of cash. This is maybe why they don't pay a dividend, because their dividend is going to go to the United States government in the forms of fines. And my opinion still on all this antitrust stuff is that Google will come out smelling like a rose. I mean, is anybody out there going to stop using Google? Okay, is some competitor magically going to appear over the next 12 months and eliminate Google? Absolutely not. Same thing with Facebook. But they will have to unload a clip a little bit to the United States government and give them some money. And that's just the way it is. That's how it works. I'm not saying it's fair or if it's right. I'm just saying that's how it's probably going to be. Google and Fitbit receives a conditional approval in the European Union, EU. Got to say that a little slower. And so Google, what's interesting is they agreed not to use targeted advertising, ensure Android phones will continue to work with other fitness wearables and smartwatches so they don't build a monopoly where if you have an Android phone, you have to have a Fitbit, that type of thing. Now, the reason why this is key is because the EU was going to rule on this first and the United States will follow, and that should close this deal at some point. But it's a really interesting one. Fitbit, when they acquired them, looked like they had about a $2 billion valuation, but I bet all the legal stuff that Google has gone through over at least the last year or so with this drove that price up considerably. I bet they had to pay 20-30% in terms of legal fees to get that deal done. Something that you want to keep in mind going forward. All this legal pressure and the antitrust stuff on Google is going to force them not to get into these deals because they're just way more expensive than they probably want them to be and a lot harder to get done. 214 for Microsoft, start of the week and ended at 218. Not a little bit of news. We had that Jedi contract. We'll see. That would be a negative for Microsoft if that Jedi contract for some reason got reversed. I wouldn't necessarily anticipate that, but if it does, that's interesting. Now, this just came across right as I was sitting down here. They're planning, Microsoft in that case, is planning in-house server chips. And that just kills Intel, because we know that Apple is going to their own chipsets in their personal computers, but it looks like server chips for Microsoft, that it's in the planning stages. I would guess they're several years away, but that's interesting. So we'll see what happens there. Tesla, boy, a big week for Tesla. Start of the week at about 624, hit all-time, actually pushed through all-time highs before kind of selling off a little bit here over the last couple days. Big week for Tesla. They're heading on over to Indonesia looking for nickel. So this happened on Battery Day. It didn't happen on Battery Day, but Elon Musk kind of talked about this on Battery Day, that they need nickel over at Tesla to make these batteries and to make their products. And they're on the hunt for it, so they're heading over to Indonesia for that. Now, Tesla announced extended production shutdown for the Model S and the Model X. Now, typically, Tesla closes down the factory or gives employees a fairly good vacation during the holidays, and it's a little bit longer than normal, but the thing that you want to keep in mind is the Model S and the Model X, at this point for Tesla, I'm not saying they aren't insignificant vehicles. They are the kind of a desirable model, obviously, but because of their price point, you know, $70, $80, $90, $100,000 plus for these cars, they don't sell nearly as many of these as they are selling the Model 3s. So if they were shut down Model 3 production, it'd be a little bit different. So, and Model Y, which is also another one of their affordable models. So this Model S, Model X, while it probably will delay some deliveries, it could allow Tesla, this is production shutdown. They're still going to be executing on deliveries, and maybe by shutting down Model S and Model X production could allow them to push through more deliveries of the 3 and the Y, which are really driving Tesla's kind of results at this point. Now, Tesla stock hits an all-time highs as we are on the last trading day before they get called up to the major leagues, the S&P 500. So we'll see what happens with Tesla heading into next week. See if a lot of this gain we saw was pulled forward. We'll see if there's a run up heading into the S&P 500. Now onto the stock chart. Facebook, right in the middle of a range. Okay, we're playing this. In fact, we're hugging this 50-day moving average. What you're looking at with Facebook is exactly what happened with Apple, which we'll notice here in a moment. We want to push through this all-time high, or not the all-time high. We want to push through this high first, which is about 294. Okay, we're about $20 from there. So any push up into the 285 range, that's what you want to buckle your seatbelts. Again, we've failed this 285 level several times here over the last few weeks. And so we'll see if Facebook's able to jump up into there. Now, Apple has done something which we were anticipating and we were wondering if it was going to happen. Okay, it was probably going to go one way or the other with Apple. So we're kind of in a defined uptrend, but we pushed through this 125 level just a little bit. We're at right at 126. Okay, this is a very bullish sign. Okay, if the stock can stay up here and continue this momentum, we should likely contest these all-time highs at 137. What it does when it gets up to 137 will all depend on momentum and news and that type of thing, and just market sentiment with the stimulus and maybe more macro stuff. So we'll see what happens here, but this is in the shorter term kind of a bullish sign for Apple. Amazon's doing exactly what Facebook is doing, just stuck right in the middle of this range. We're stuck in this range since November 11th or so. You see, we're just kind of waving out in this range. Again, what we're looking for Amazon is to push through this intermediate high. We've got all-time highs here, but we got to push through these highs first to get there, and those are at about 34.50 or so. So we got to push through those first. Again, that's $250 from where the stock is today. We'll see if Amazon's able to do that anytime soon. Now, Netflix popped over where we 507 or so. This line might not be perfect. You might be able to push this up now a little bit. Actually, this is probably 510. 510's probably our critical area with a Netflix, where it pops over here, and look what it's done. It's kind of kind of blows up here and then sells off. Any sell off in Netflix down into, man, can we get back down here to 460, 470? You could probably push this up to 470. Any sell-off into the 470, in my opinion, and myself including, would be a buying opportunity. Intermediate of that is probably 487, somewhere in here, 487, 490. We can just round these off. So anywhere in this box down in here, notice that every time we've ticked up over this 510 level, the stock has sold off into this lower box between 470 and we'll call it 490. Any pullback into that area for Netflix is a buying opportunity, in my opinion. Now, Google, we talked about on the last show that I'm anticipating Google filling this gap right here. And now we're kind of like almost right on it. Not quite. We've kind of broken this little bit of an area right here, about 1725. Okay, we've kind of closed below it today. So I would anticipate Google actually filling this gap. And that would be the first spot. I don't think I would add to my Google. I think I have like 1 or 2 shares of Google. 16, I don't want to say 1666. We'll say 1660 would be, again, give or take $10, would be where I would first want to step in with Google. I'd want to see this gap fill here and the level hold before I wanted to jump in there. But it looks like to me we might have topped out in Google up here, and we could be coming down here to retest this area and then maybe resume the uptrend. We'll see what happens there with Google. Moving on to a Microsoft. Now, Microsoft has done a little bit like what Apple's done, but again, whenever we've popped above this 218, 216 or so on Microsoft, it is sold off, okay? We were in the middle of this range. In fact, I talked about this on our Q&A video. This swing trade, I wasn't able to get in it, but it was a kind of nice swing trade. Any retest down here to 209 would be a buying opportunity, in my opinion, with Microsoft, either a short-term trade or potentially going long Microsoft. Any pullback into 209 would be interesting because you see here for the last month or so, this stock has just bounced around between 209 up to about 216. So the other thing that could happen is we could continue this uptrend. The stock's going to have to push up into the 225 range over these highs right here, would then potentially retest these all-time highs up into the upper 230 range. That is Microsoft. Finally, Tesla is just on a run. It's like you've got that Model 3 gas pedal just down to the floor. Take a look at this. We're just on an elevator shaft. Now, Tesla tends to do this, okay? We get on these elevator shafts and then we have retracements, okay? We get on, that's a minor elevator. This is a major elevator shaft. So I would look for some kind of pullback in Tesla before I jumped back in. I am back in here at the 4. I think I got in here somewhere down at the 4. I got in this box because you see all this price action, this consolidated price action in this box. I got into Tesla in this box. I didn't set a stop loss, but that probably would have been the smart thing to do at about 380. Boom, we've broken up here. And, you could set a stop loss. I think if you want to lock in profits with, or make sure you lock in profits with Tesla, like a $600 stop loss, because if we break 6, we could come back. There's not a lot of price action down here. We could come back down here into the upper or the low 5s in this stock. So that, in my opinion, would be a buying opportunity. This thing could consolidate sideways. Again, if you follow this channel, I don't like to buy stocks when they're on this momentum run. If you have them in your portfolio, like I do this one, it's great. It feels great, but I don't necessarily want to come in there and add to it or buy more. There we go. That was our recap show for the week. We'll see you again next Friday. Leave me a comment down below. Don't forget to hit that like button and that subscribe button if you do like what we're doing here on the channel. I really do appreciate it, and I love hearing from all of you. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great weekend, and good luck with all your investments.